Hello everyone and welcome to a very special episode of Campus Budget Millennial Special. I'm Avanne Dubash and I'm right here in the SP Jain School of Global Management in Mumbai on their campus. We at ET Now want to get in a pulse as to what the common man, what the millennials want to hear from the budget. Remember, come July 5th, Nirmala Sitharaman, the newly appointed Finance Minister, is going to have her task set out for her. Now that we've had the overwhelming majority of Modi 2.0 in the hot seat, it's time for action. So much like a cricket team where the selectors choose all of their, much like a cricket selector who chooses the team, the Finance Minister as well is going to get lots of bouquets but a lot of criticism as well from the budget. So let's get straight to it and find out what we want and what the expectations are from the millennials. So I'm going to start off then with you. There's so many tasks at hand, be it the farmer distress, be it the startups, NBFCs. What's the first thing that you want to hear?
Prime Minister Modi recently said that he classifies people as job seekers and job creators. If that's the case, then we need to focus on the job creators. And how do we do that? We do that by focusing on the private investment cycle. One of the major factors for kicking off the private investment cycle is basically the fiscal deficit, right? Our target for fiscal deficit is 3%, but the interim budget that we had in February, the fiscal deficit was 3.4%. So I expect a budget which starts moving towards the 3%. And that is important for us because, like Prime Minister Modi said, if we are focusing on job creators, then it's important that we start moving towards fiscal consolidation.
Right. So macros you think is going to be
macros
with the fiscal.
On the investment side, I would expect continued investment in public infrastructure such as mass transit. And on divestment side, I hope that the government takes the low-hanging fruit such as, say, Air India. The elections are behind us. I hope the government swallows the bitter pill now. They're not going to get a second chance.
Absolutely. Now it's time for action. If you could pass that mic on behind. But I wanted to also get in a perspective from, the common man perspective as well. Is there anything closely that you would look out for from a taxation point of view?
So taxation perspective, if you look at, right, there are a couple of things which we need to have. Number one is that we require a boost in consumption. So from that perspective, we will require tax breaks and we will have directed investment kind of a scenario where people will get some tax break for investing into certain securities or certain investment vehicles. Apart from that, when we look at short-term scenario, you can give tax break, but long-term, medium to long-term, you require something much more than that. First of all, you require policy-driven changes rather than just short-term changes. And for that, we require a couple of major decision-making to be in place. If you look at number one, we require Niti Aayog to drive this more, let's say, hands-on, and they are already doing multiple things, but the idea will be that to make sure people are able to provide more and more sustainable investment cycle, saving cycle, investment cycle, as well as consumption cycle in future. And you have so many people today who are not having jobs, for example. So how to identify the segment for them and create opportunities suitable for them, because you cannot have a single kind of a silver bullet for everything, right? So you need to identify the right category and then identify how you can do that. So first of all, you will have millennials who require new age skills, and you require those people who are there to understand how to drive India to the next global economic power, right? So for them, you require new age technologies like AI, ML, you have big data, blockchain, so on and so forth. Right now, so far in India, you are not having clear policy on some of the blockchain related matters. So we require some clarity on that as well. On the investment cycle, so far you have state-driven startup schemes. We require also at a national level. So you have like fund of fund, where you have state level funds and then you have a national level fund to drive this more successfully. And when you look at middle-aged people, right, who are not there with the, let's say right now, whatever new thing is happening in the economy. So you need to reskill them, upskill them. And for that you require, right now, Prime Minister has various schemes, but awareness is really lacking on that side. We need to have those. And finally, when you look at retired people, right, that is another major area where we need to focus on, because those are the people who can contribute into nation building, and we can have them create some groups where they can locally manage their areas much better and identify the opportunities there. Thanks.
Okay, if you could pass that mic on behind, and I would be curious as well to understand what the millennials want to hear. And more importantly, we had the interim budget the last time around, and you could say it was a bit, populist in nature, much unexpected lines. Were you happy with what you heard? And tell us what are the two big things you want to see from Nirmala Sitharaman?
So actually, I'm happy with the budget that they had proposed. The two things that I actually want them to add in the budget are basically I'm from engineering background, so there is not much innovation at the college level. So I want the budget to make a provision where the government actually provide some funds to the college so that they can actually get more into research and development.
Okay.
So that's the major thing that I actually want them to inculcate in the budget.
Okay, what about from a startup perspective? There were a lot of issues on the taxation front. The startup industry was up in arms about that. Given that you guys are the future, is there something on that front in terms of more clearer rules, etc., that you would want to hear?
Yeah, nowadays, what we are facing right now is there are a lot of water crisis in all the states. So that's the main issue government facing right now, more than anything else.
Yeah, you're right.
So government should focus on making India and skill India to find solution against this kind of environmental crisis and all.
Okay.
So they can make anything, cause last year they have budget only 3,000 billion, I think so, on making India and skill India. So they need to increase this budget to find new solution for these problems.
Water crisis, that's a big issue. We've not really spoken about that. There are also many sectors that are ailing. The consumption slowdown has been very evident. Auto sales as well have really been in the slow lane. Are there any key sectors that you guys would like to see a change in, or some announcements made on this front to spur investment activity?
More investment. I want to see that there is no one investing research and development model. Not in pharma, not in automobile, not in data analytics sector. So government need to focus on this sector.
Okay. If you could pass the mic around, any other sectors that you want to see focus on?
Yeah, in my view, I think the startups in India are still lagging behind. So in 2016, Modi government started an initiative for startups. But I think there are still many ways through which the startups in India can still be developed. And as we all know, those are the various ways from which the unemployment problem can be shoot out. So I think the taxation slabs should increase from 3 years to 5 years, and various financial institutions can also be developed so that startups can find a way to develop more.
Okay, yeah, and you stressed upon two factors. If you could pass the mic around, you spoke about the startup industry. We're lagging behind compared to the rest of the globe. And then, of course, job creation. That's a big crisis that's looming large for the Modi government. Can you tell us a little bit about what were the main pain points?
So basically, before a job is created, we need to have the youth educated. So it's not the degree, it's the skill that you have. So right now, when I see the budget, they are focusing, I know base education, the school education is important, but they are focusing more on the school education, and the budget for the higher education is little less. So I would want the base to be strong as well as the high level education also to be strong, because that is where you don't get a job because you're 10th pass out. You get a job after you are graduate. So your skills in the graduation level need to be high. It's not just a degree, it's also the skill.
So you're saying for the education sector more needs to be done as well, right?
Especially when it comes to your higher level education.
Yeah, you've really, if I could have the mic, you've really brought up a valid point, because you're talking a little bit about how that skill set can empower the future for, job creation and all of that. And sir, as a professor as well, I'm sure you'd agree with that. Something on that front needs to be done. And can you tell us what you want to hear?
So I think now that the elections are over, and the first time that despite the economic issues raised by the opposition, it made no difference to the voting. But Modi's honeymoon is now over, and he has to start delivering on the economic agenda now. Some major macro issues are we have to restore credibility in our data. Nobody believes the growth data which we are putting forward. So I think
so many issues raised on that front.
There are so many issues, and therefore the credibility of our growth, both in the country and abroad, is at stake unless we fix that.
Okay.
And I think the next major, thing is job creation. But job creation is not merely skills. It's also lending to the small-scale enterprises, the small and medium enterprises, which are starved of funds. Most of our banks lend only to the top corporates and not to the small enterprises. And these are the enterprises who create the employment. And unfortunately, the RBI strictures on lending have become so strict that money has virtually dried up. So the finance minister has to work at bringing liquidity into the economy, and I hope this budget will do something about that.
Okay. What about some of the other sectors? Are there any sectors,
Yeah,
say infrastructure, public transportation? They impact people like you and me.
So some of the information is a little surprising. There was information which has come out just today that actually our service sector has contracted and our manufacturing sector has done rather well.
Yeah, and exports has been a
And
silver lining
exports has
as well.
gone up. But I think if there is one area in which India is known for its manufacturing, that's automobiles.
Right.
We are probably the world's largest automobile exporter. And we need to do everything we can to bring back some energy in this sector. And one of the most obvious ones is to give concessions on electrical vehicles and on, so that it helps both the environment as well as, pushes our automobile industry. At this point in time, there is no difference in the GST, whether it's an electric vehicle, a hybrid vehicle, or a normal vehicle, which doesn't seem to be a very sensible thing to do if you want to promote your automobile industry. Yeah?
So concessions for EVs is something
Yes,
that
yes.
you really want to see.
And in fact,
but you think it'll actually become a reality?
Yes,
electric
because you can
vehicles?
see now that, in fact, in Delhi, all the Zomato, Swiggy, and delivery boys are being forced to go in for EV scooters. And if these are the people, the logistic, the courier people who use the maximum of these two-wheelers. And imagine what difference would it make to pollution in a city like Delhi if such two-wheelers became EV.
Need of the hour,
Need of the hour, yeah.
you've definitely very well put it. We slip into a short break, come right back. We find out more as to how they've assessed the previous budget and what the expectations are. Stay tuned. Welcome back. This is Budget Campus, the Millennial Special. We're at the campus of SP Jain Global School of Management in Mumbai, and we want to get a pulse at ET now as to what the millennials want to hear from the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. Remember, it was a resounding victory for the Modi government, but now it's time to get into action, set forth all of the policies, because this is a big litmus test as to what is going to be the narrative for policy, for reforms over the next 5 years as well. So we're in conversation with the students. Let's get right back to it. And I want to, get in a sense as to what you made of the interim budget the last time around. There was, they combined the railway as well as the budget. How would you rate it on 10?
When last time Piyush Goyal represent the budget, it's the highlight of the budget is that they increase the ITR returns from 4 lakh to 5 lakhs. So this year I want to see that there is a housing sector where people want to buy they get loan for housing sector. So I want to see that the government should increase the limit for the loan section for their tax benefits. So people are going to buy a lot of houses, and that will be benefit in the Awas Yojana also, that Niti Aayog considering for last 5 years.
Okay. So how much would you rate it on 10? Total overall budget?
So last year, Piyush Goyal budget, I will give 8 out of 10.
Okay, so I think that would be quite a decent rating. You have a lower rating, I think?
No, I think when you asked us the question last time, I gave it a rating of about 7 out of 10. But one of the issues I'd like to raise is, again, in the respect to financial services. We see these advertisements coming out about mutual funds sahi hai. I'm sure all of us have seen that. I believe the government should put in a regulatory mechanism not to oversell these investments which carry an element of risk. And we are almost selling mutual funds as we sell FMCG products to an audience which may tend to lose a lot of money if they don't invest wisely. And I think this industry needs to be regulated. And I think the second thing is something which I cannot understand why the government has not been doing for years, is to bring the tax treatment on mutual funds at par with fixed deposits in banks. Now, when you invest in a mutual fund, you're taxed for 3 years, you're taxed at 20% long-term capital gain. When you invest fixed deposit in 3 years in a public sector bank, it's treated as income in your hands and there's a TDS deduction. Now, why should there be this varied tax treatment? It's something which, this is one of the reasons why people don't give their money to banks and rather give it to mutual funds because of the tax treatment. I think this is long overdue, and we're very happy if Nirmala Sitharaman looked into this.
Okay. What about some of the other areas? Yeah, you seem to be raising your finger.
I will add to what he just mentioned. So
Sure.
if you look at in recent past, right, we have seen so many rating downgrades happening. Suddenly you had investment grade securities going to junk, right? So today, I personally believe we also require a very active CDS market in India. We require that because we can then have the risk management, which is much more better than what we can have right now. Second thing is about when you look at in India, first of all, you are not allowed to have kind of an insurance which is similar to CDS on loan product or lending product, right? So you should allow that as well. That will again enhance the depth in the market about risk management, how you can do risk management activity in India. Of course, you need to start slow and then allow more and more products. So earlier on single borrower kind of a thing, you had allowed that. So single, that vehicle, CDS vehicle was allowed earlier, but now we need to also expand that. Second thing we need to understand is about how to create right infrastructure overall in the market. So first of all, smart cities project, very good initiative, but have we seen what have
Yeah. You know, if I may come in here, there have been a lot of initiatives and a lot of
Buzz around that.
policies that have been announced, you know, the Make in India, the various schemes that have been announced. Is there anyone that you believe that has actually seen good progress?
So good question. I will tell you exactly what I have seen so far, right? So if you look at what government has done very good is making some of these data points available in the public. While not many of us know how to look for that, but it is there in the public domain. So data.gov.in is the website where you can identify and see all these schemes, progress of those schemes, right? And when you track all these progresses, you will identify that there are certain schemes which are doing very well. And there are certain schemes which are not doing very well. So we need to reallocate the investment or let's say commitment which we have from those schemes which are not doing very well. Maybe re-identify or let's say identify how to further enhance those schemes, make it more deeper. And that is something which we are not doing. And that's why data science is something people always say that we need to invest more on. And if you can't measure, you can't control. That's the fact of the life, right? So you need to first measure correctly, and accountability will only come when you are having all this data more and more in public domain. Along with that, discussions will happen along with this data, right? So you cannot have otherwise. So back to my smart city project which they had initiated, right? So if you look at how many smart cities are live today, not many. So we need to make sure that whatever we are proposing are also achieved.
Walk the talk.
Right. And the moment you do that, then only you will have that investment cycle running much faster, right? Because the moment you create one smart city, it is not just about that city. It is more about bringing employment, bringing more, let's say, jobs around that area, education around that area, and then it kickstarts the economy in that region. And a second thing which I would like to highlight, mainly if you look at, so NCMC card which they have proposed, right? One nation, one card. So from that perspective, when you look at, you need to again make sure the right kind of initiatives are given to promote financial inclusion through these cards. And one thing which if you look at, right, so specifically in India, recently Nandan Nilekani proposed this recommendations which he made for payment. So we need to make sure that those things are implemented as soon as possible, and then only we will have kickstart of economy very soon. Thanks.
Okay, fair enough. You wanted to add to that, and I also, you know, since you were talking about some of these digital payments, we've seen the woes of demonetization, GST gradually tiding over that. What do you make of the pickup in the digital payments and all the initiatives being made on that front? Even Bitcoin is something that you brought up.
In terms of Bitcoin, I mean, my opinion is that we should stay away from Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Not at the, because the basic...
Not government regulated.
It's not government regulated. There are no valuation models for valuing Bitcoins. So I personally don't invest. I don't advise anyone to invest in Bitcoin. Okay, so in terms of what I like to add here to the discussion, I've heard a lot about people, about everybody wanting investments in AI and machine learning. In my opinion, we just recently had a terrible event where some 100 kids died from eating some fruit, right? So a budget is about allocating your scarce resources. So I would strongly make the case that we should focus on basic health and basic education.
Yeah.
The case has been proven that for every dollar that you invest in basic health gives you much better returns than investing anything else. And from and where we are right now, we are far behind the global standards.
Why do you think that is?
I guess it's just a morass of last 70 years.
Yeah. So you think getting to the root of the problem, addressing some of these basic concerns is the need of the
Yes,
hour when it comes
absolutely.
to healthcare?
Absolutely. Something like healthcare, basic education, mass transit. We are a nation of 1.3 billion. We simply can't keep burning fossil fuels,
Yes.
right? I mean,
Environment.
as is, we run a huge bill importing oil, and most of that oil is burnt, and especially in Mumbai, we just burn it in traffic, right? It is total loss of productivity. We are polluting the environment, and we are just sitting in traffic
But then
for
don't
2
you think
hours, 3
steps
hours every
like
day.
the metro and things like that are going to be game changers?
Absolutely, and that's why I said we need to start investing in mass transit and high-speed transit, mass transit for the cities and high-speed transit between cities.
Right.
That is clearly the future, and for a nation of 1.3 billion, we don't have a choice.
Yeah. I'm sure. Go ahead.
You know, one of the interesting things happening now is that I think we should grab the opportunity of the trade problems between China and the US. China is looking for large markets, and if it's denied entry into the US market by tariffs, it's natural to look at India
An
as a
opportunity
consumer
for-
market, and that will help move manufacturing into India. Now, I'll give you an example. One of the great successes of Make in India 2.0 is actually the manufacture of Chinese mobile phones. Xiaomi, which is one of the leading budget phones, has got a whole lot of manufacturing set up here. And why? Because the Indian market is a huge mobile phone market for Chinese products. So I think there is an opportunity here as China searches for markets and we offer a lower manufacturing cost than China, that we can make both these objectives a reality very, very soon.
Yeah, and Donald Trump was, so far with his talks with Narendra Modi, seemed to be fairly positive. There have been those trade war and tariff concerns. But do you think that the long-term implications would be strong for India?
Yeah, so at the moment, India's trade with the US is a fraction of what it is the China trade. So we are not that bigger or that important a trade partner. But the more China and US go head to head, and I think it will only worsen because there are some issues on intellectual property rights and stuff which China will never be able to agree. India is a natural democratic partner. So it's up to the two leaders to make the most of this opportunity. And I think there is a scope to expand our trade with the US tenfold, particularly with the problems they're having with China.
Okay, and on that note, then we'll sum it up. So from infrastructure, we've been talking about the ailing auto sector, a consumption pickup, taxes as well for the common man, a relief on that front. We've discussed everything. The task is set out for Nirmala Sitharaman, but what is going to finally happen, we'll only know on the 5th of July. But for now, we wrap it up right here on BNSN Campus Millennial Special. Thanks so much for watching.